TLC family, it's your friendly neighborhood car brothers, John and Dalton, or Dalton and John, and we're here to do an oil change on my vehicle. Now, I know a lot of you will not take on a project like this because most people don't know what to do with an oil change. The reason I do this is because for two reasons: I can control the quality of the oil and I can keep the cost down. Now, some of you out there, roughly about the time close to winter, you'll see $19.99 specials being offered for oil changes and this and that. I personally will never take advantage of those because there's no way that oil is synthetic oil. There's two types of oils. There's standard oil and there's synthetic oil. Synthetic oil is the best oil for your engine, but it's very expensive. So there's no way you can get 4 to 5 liters of oil put into your car with the filter and the labor of time for $19.99. So if they tell you that's synthetic oil, they are lying. So I control the quality of the oil by purchasing my oil at sale when it's on sale at Canadian Tire, and I can do the labor myself, so I control what's done to the car. A lot of times these guys, they don't change the filters. They put new oil in, but they don't change the filter. And secondly, they strip the nut, and John will tell you a story about that. They strip your oil plug nut. So this way I can control the quality of the work, the quality of the oil, and the peace of mind that I know that I put the right oil in, I put the right amount, and I tightened up that nut properly. And also I just like tinkering with my car. So if you are one of those people that like to do things yourself, we're going to give you some tips on how to do that, and at a very cost effectively. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, John? Just that I don't do my oil changes myself, but I had the same place doing my oil changes, and they did strip the nut, and I said, well, you guys are the only guys that touched it, so you got to give me a freebie, and they did.
Okay, folks, so to do your own oil change, you're going to need some tools. First of all, you're going to need your oil, and I would suggest, I don't care what brand you choose, but I would suggest that you look for what says full synthetic. If it's not synthetic, you don't want it in your engine. Okay, so look for a brand that says right there, advanced or synthetic or full synthetic, because there are different types of synthetic oils that are not 100% synthetic or a synthetic blend. You don't want that. You want a full synthetic. And you also need to know how much oil your car will take inside the engine. How you find that out is by looking in your owner's manual. It'll tell you at the back somewhere in the specs what your motor needs as far as how much oil. For my particular motor, it requires 5.7 liters, so I purchased 4.73 here, and 1 liter here that accounts for 5 liters. You will also need a dolly to get yourself in and out from under the car with ease. You need a funnel to funnel the oil into the engine. You need a filter. I would suggest you go with a good brand. The best brand for filters is Fram, right? Pay the money up front now so you don't have to pay later.
Yeah.
And you know, you need a ratchet set to undo the your oil plug, as well as this is for optional. Sometimes to remove the filter it gets a little tough, so you need something like this. And this is just another type of tool for pulling your filter. This is optional if your filter is mounted sideways on your engine. This is an easy tool to pull it if it's that way. Or if it's in a tight place where you can't get a ratchet, this is the kind of tool that will do that. And also, you need a dirty rag to clean your hand and that kind of stuff. And you need something, oil reservoir here to catch all the dirty oil that's coming out so that you don't send it into the sewer system or all over your driveway. So these are all the tools that you will need, and if I've missed anything out, I'll mention it later on. Alright folks, so now I'm just going to open the engine and check the quality of my oil to see how dirty it is. Obviously, you should have done this before to know that you need an oil change. My car has a computer that monitors and tell me when it's time to change the oil, but there's a good way to tell you, or just by sight, to show you if your oil is dirty. If it's black and not brown or not honey colored, then it's time to change the oil. So now we're just going to lift the hood and take a look at the color of the oil. So how we do that, for my car, your car obviously will be different, but for my car, the hood release latch is right there. You do that, and that releases the hood. Now you gotta go around to the front. There's a safety lever that even if the hood release latch is open, there's still another latch. It's a finger latch here that you have to push sideways to release it. So it's usually the center line of the car is there. It's always off about 1.5 inches. You push it to the sideways, and there you go. Your hood, it's this little latch right here. So you see that safety hook? It catches onto this. So even after you pull the latch, this hook here, this little hook, will keep your hood from flying off if you're on the highway or you accidentally somebody, I don't know how you do it, but things happen. Okay, so inside your engine, this is your oil dipstick. Do not mistake it for your transmission dipstick, which has a lock on it. I'll show you there's a different thing. This is your oil dipstick. You want to pull that out. It's kind of hard to pull out because they make it so that it doesn't fly out by itself, because you lose pressure if it pops out by itself. And you pull it out, and you want to look. So now we're going to check the oil by looking at the color to see how much soot has collected inside your oil. If you look there, this oil is still pretty good. We could probably get another couple thousand kilometers out of it because it's still honey brown, right?
Right.
Another thing you will notice is there are a bunch of holes. 1, 2, 3, 4 holes in there. Each hole represents 1 liter of oil. So on this side, you'll see a hash pattern right there like that. On most cars, that hash pattern only goes for 2. So on this car, it shows you anytime your oil, the range that you want the oil in is between this line here and that one. Each one of these represents 1 liter. So if you open the hood and you see your oil line mark there, that means you need to put 2 liters in to put your car back to the normal operating amount of oil that you need in the engine. So based on this oil is still good. It could run for another couple thousand kilometers, but the computer in the car says it's time to change it. So I'm not going to argue. Winter's coming. I don't want to be doing this in winter. So now we're going to go underneath the car and we're going to find that drain plug. We're going to pull that drain plug and drain the car, and then we'll show you, but once again up top here, we're going to fill the engine up with the required amount of oil and then get it down off the jacks and all that. So let's go. So this is the oil drain plug for my car. Unfortunately, GM has decided to put it on the side like that. So because of the pressure in the engine, when I pull this plug out, all the oil is going to squirt that way. So I have to make sure this is set up just right to catch it. I'm also going to use this to deflect the oil downward into the plug, into the collector here. So here we go. Oh, and also, whenever you're under the car, make sure you have protective glasses on. Protect your eyes from dust and things that could fall in your eye and cause a lot of stress to you.
Hey, gravity teaches us things fall down, right? That's true.
That's
Anytime
right.
you're under something, you're looking up, something falls right in your eye.
That's right. So with this, once you've broken the connect, you can undo it by hand because this is well lubricated, so it's not difficult to undo. Towards the end, you want to be careful it doesn't fall into the bucket because you'd have to fish it out with your hands, which are then going to get covered with oil. Also, as you can see, I'm wearing gloves. So,
how long ago did you run this vehicle, Dalton? So is the oil going to be warm slightly?
It's slightly warm, but I only ran it this morning for about 15 minutes.
So it's not going to be hot?
No, you don't want to do this when the engine's hot.
Right.
Because this oil is over 300 degrees when the engine's hot.
Right.
So, there you go. So, the next thing after this, we're going to have to remove the filter. That's going to require me getting out and getting the filter, the replacement filter, and also the filter removal tool. The reason I have this dirty, filthy rag here is so I can wipe the grease off. As you can see, some of it got on my gloves. So that's done. So what we're going to need now is our new filter. And this is a Fram filter. And this filter, before you put it on, you get a little bit of that grease, and you grease this rubber seal up, because it allows you to put it on without too much effort. Also, this is our filter tool. It fits at the back right here like that, and we're going to put the socket guide in here, and that will take the one off that's under there first and let it drain out inside the collector, and then we'll put this one on. What you do is you lubricate this seal up and you hand tighten it, and then give it maybe 1 1/4 turn to lock it in place. You don't want to put it on too tightly, because then they become really difficult to remove. Folks, so as I told you before, we're going to just get a little bit of grease and lubricate this rubber seal. Okay, now that we've done that, that's almost done draining. So what I'm going to do, just so you do, whenever you're doing repairs on the car, you always do a 1, 2, 3. Whatever you remove, you replace. So let's replace this. So again, because of how well lubricated this area is, because of the oil, it doesn't require much to tighten it, to put it in, and then grab your socket, change your rotation, your directional rotation, put it on there, and tighten it up. Give it a nice secure set. Okay, that won't leak. I want to get that. There we are. So now we want to move to this location. You guys probably won't be able to see this, but that's where the filter is. So we're going to take this one out, put it out there, put this there. Alright, so let's check. Turn right to tighten, turn left to loosen. This way to tighten, that way to loosen. Okay, so we've undone the filter. Now there's usually about 1/2 liter of oil inside the filter too. So we have to change where our bucket is to catch it. And this one is not going to be pretty. There she is, starting to leak out. Okay. You don't want this to drop inside of this bucket, because first thing it's going to do is splash this oil, and you don't want to get this stuff in your eye. Here we go, got it.
That's fine.
Okay, so now that we've got that off, let's clean this hand up, and we gotta get this one off, back on. So I'm gonna need the tool from the bottom of that John.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, so here you go. Can you use that
Yeah,
in?
I'll pull it out. Hang on. Yeah, this is gonna help you put the next one on, isn't it?
Yeah. So right now I'm just hand tightening it, and then John's gonna hand me that tool. Just gotta give this 1/4 turn to lock it in place. Okay, maybe a little bit more. There we are. Okay, so that's it. We're done underneath the car. The engine is empty of oil. I'm gonna take these things out and hopefully not make a mess. John earlier asked a question, and the question was basically, what is the difference between synthetic oil and regular oil?
Yeah, but why?
Wouldn't natural oil, because it sounds good, would
Well,
natural
ask
oil be
yourself.
better?
Synthetic, to us who are a little older, meant not natural.
Right.
You know, and so the alternate would be natural. You want the natural product.
Yeah.
My vehicle, which is, you might say, fussy vehicle, it wants a certain thing. It has to have the synthetic oil.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go with a half. There's even half breeds, half synthetic,
Yeah,
half
blended.
not.
You can't.
Blended oil. You can't go with that.
Yeah.
The manual says must be synthetic. So it must be better. I heard it's made from natural gas rather than regular oil. I don't know what it is. Dalton was telling me.
Well, not being a chemist myself, I personally don't know what
I thought
exactly
you were a chemist.
goes into making synthetic oil. However, what I know is synthetic oil, it takes a longer time to break down. It does not absorb as much carbon from the exhaust, from the combustion process that happens inside your engine. So
Right.
your oil will stay clean and look that honey brown color a lot longer than natural oil. Natural oil within 2 weeks will be black sludge. It's disgusting. It gums up your works inside the engine. It gums up your valves, your pistons, all of that. Whereas synthetic oil, because it doesn't break down, the viscosity doesn't break down as quickly, it lasts so much longer. And you just saw what I showed you earlier. When we pulled that dipstick out, the oil,
Still look good.
even though I've been running that oil from spring, from basically I changed the oil in, I think maybe February, and we're now in October, right?
So
And I was running that oil right through the summer, and I've been on many, many long drives, right? But that oil was still had that honey brown look to it. So it just
and
shows
it still
you-
was thick.
and it's still no.
Well,
it still
not thick, but it's still
was
viscous.
Fluid. It was still viscous, and it still probably had a few thousand kilometers left to go in there. But because the car says it's time to change it, I don't argue with the car. If it says it needs oil, I put oil in there.
Right.
Right. So natural oil. Back in the day, that's what everybody had.
That's all you
And
had.
The only people that used synthetic was professional race car drivers and such. But now synthetic is common, and every car needs synthetic. Even if you have an older car, it'll do better with synthetic oil than it would natural oil.
Right.
Right?
I don't know how many of you have had a car that was so old, when you get in before you start it, you say a little prayer. I literally had cars like that through the years.
Is that car that kept you close to God?
Yeah, the car keeps your prayer life good because you're constantly praying, oh Lord, bless my car. Driving down the highway in the winter and all of a sudden the heat fails.
Yeah.
And you got another hour of road in front of you and it's the winter.
Yeah.
You know, I have prayed right then and just begged God and have it come back and work, you know. I know women, they say, well, they hear a foreign sound in the car and hear, is this a sexist comment? Maybe I should say some people will hear a noise that doesn't belong in the car. Just turn up the radio a little louder and solves the problem. But
You know what?
you should be listening.
And black electrical tape solved most problems in the car. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, so now that we've drained all that oil out of the engine, we need to put the oil back in, right? Because oil is like blood to a car. No blood in your body, you're in serious trouble. With no oil in this engine, it wouldn't even get 2 kilometers before we destroy the motor. So here we go. So you need a funnel. Doesn't matter which car you have. It's a lot easier to pour oil into an engine with a funnel than without, right? You don't want to pour oil over your engine because when you start the car up and your manifold heats up, you're going to see a lot of smoke coming out your engine. You're going to panic and think, and it's going to stink up your insides too, inside the car, and you're going to think something's wrong, but that's just because you spilled some oil. So you need a funnel. Now, your funnel usually sits somewhere for somewhere between 3 and 6 months. It's going to get dust, it's going to get all sorts of things inside the funnel. You want to clean that funnel out. These little things you can see here, they could cause clogging and damaging inside your engines as well, especially if it's sand or grit. So you want to wipe that out. You Get everything as best as you can, and off of this side as well, right? So I tried washing this out earlier, but we had it down here and dust got in there again. So now, it's a lot cleaner, hopefully.
Dust wouldn't be as bad as grit.
It's the grit that
You don't want to chunk
that
of
because
stone in there.
what it turns to is glass inside the engine and then scars everything up. Now that we've got that clean, so put that there for a minute. Now, I have no loyalty to any oil. I use whatever's on sale at Canadian Tire as long as it says full synthetic. Now for my car, I need, these numbers are important. 5W30, and some cars require, John, require 10W30. This number 5 tells you how thin the oil is. You might say, don't you want oil to be thick? No, because in winter, it doesn't flow well when you start the car. So for that first few minutes before your engine heats up, the oil is gonna be like honey inside your engine. So the thinner your oil is, the better it is for your engine. So my car recommended 5W30, and that's what I use. Not 10W30 or whatever, what I feel like. Whatever the car recommends, you use. Now, a good way for you to figure out what your car recommends is GM has been quite kind, and most automakers do this. They put the recommended oil on your oil cap. So, you will see the oil cap right there, and it'll show you. It'll say right there. I don't know if you can see that, but 5W30. So that tells me that we're in business. So, what you want to do is put your funnel in here and start with your bigger container first. Why? Because sometimes there might be a little bit of oil left in there. As you can see, my car is on a hoist, so it's angled backwards. So most of the oil will have drained out, but there might be a little bit of oil left in there. So you start with your big container first, so that if there's a little oil left in there, you don't overfill your engine, because underfilling your engine is just as bad as overfilling. You could have blow-by, you could have oil getting in places oil don't need to be, and if you drive a van, you'll see a lot of that on your back windshield when you've overfilled the engine, or on the back of your car all gummed up and stuff. So we'll start with this one first, and we'll just pour it in slowly until it's empty, and then we'll add as required. See how easy that is with the funnel?
Yeah.
Gives me a big spot to aim for, so we don't spill any of the oil on the engine.
I remember taking a piece of paper and making a cone out of it and using that for a funnel.
You can do that too, or
It's only good for one use.
what I used to do in the past when I was lazy and didn't know better, I would start with the small jar, the small 1 liter thing first, and I would cut the bottom off
Oh yeah.
and use it as a funnel because the nose fits
Yeah.
exactly in the hole.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
you can screw the thing, and I'll show you,
Oh yeah. You could cut it with a knife.
and just
As long
cut
as
the
you have a
bottom
nice
with the
sharp
knife.
knife.
So we'll just let that drain for a little. So what I used to do, because this part fits exactly there, I would use this one first, and I cut it like that,
Oh yeah.
and then I would use this as the
So
funnel.
you'd actually be making a funnel
Yeah.
out of the small container.
So we'll just let that drain for a little bit. So don't discard this because we're gonna need this for the used oil that's come out the motor.
Oh right. You know, I was wondering what you're gonna do with that.
So now, so I know that we're not gonna overfill because my car's on an angle, so I'm just gonna pour the whole thing in there. But if you're parked in a weird position and you think that you might overfill, you pour a little bit in, you start the motor, let it run for a little, let it sit, then check your levels. If it's exactly where it should be, then you're good.
Yeah. No, it's commendable. You could have dumped it right here. Right?
So folks,
Couldn't you? And instead, he's doing the proper thing He's going to dispose of the oil in the used container and take it to a proper place, and they'll take that, and will they recycle that oil?
That's exactly what they'll do. So this oil
doesn't really go to waste then.
We're not gonna throw it out and be environmental pirates like some people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're gonna take it and leave it at our local repair shop across the street from me, Walmart or Canadian Tire or even Jiffy if you want to, because they'll take that oil and they'll filter it and clean it up and reuse it again and add conditioners and the rest of that.
Do we want to buy that old reconditioned oil?
I personally only use synthetic, so I don't know who's going to use this stuff. But there's industrial applications that you could use this oil.
Sure,
right?
They could turn it into grease. Or
what I use the empties is to fill that up with oil, with the old oil. And these stuff I wrap up, like this one here. We're going to have to bring that to them as well. So.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's going what you call the second mile, I would say.
So you wrap this bad boy up.
And they'll dispose of it responsibly.
And they'll take care of it for you. So this is where these bags come in. You make sure you put your old filter in there.
Now you don't need that one, Dalton? Is all of that going to fit in that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
because all cars burn oil, right?
Sure. So some of the oil gets used up.
So you should check your oil, your fluid levels in your car at least once a week. On a Saturday morning, just come out and pull the dipstick and look at it. So at least once a week you should check your fluid levels. So we're talking coolant. With the coolant, you don't need to check anything. You just need to look at the reservoir and to see the hot. There's two lines, a hot line and the cold line. You should look where it's at on the cold line. As far as your oil, pull the dipstick out, look at the color of the oil, and look where it is between the hash and the dots. And you know, if it's one dot down, then you need to add 1 liter, right? But this is something you should get into a habit of doing, because you don't want to be one of those persons decide that they're on a drive coming home from work or something, and the car seizes up and dies because you forgot to check your oil or your coolant was leaking and you never knew. If you ever smell like a sweet sugary smell once you're inside the car, that tells you that there's coolant leaking inside the engine bay, right? And it's drawing it into the car. If you hear a loud clattering noise like there's marbles running around inside your engine, it means that you're running out of oil and metal parts are hitting each other with no oil in between them. Right? So these are things that you know, but you know, if I say it sounds like marble, most people will know what that sound is.
Right. I know that sound because I was a young man driving an old 98 down to Florida with my new family, and I heard this noise, and I thought, what the heck? Let's just turn up the radio a little louder. But when we got all the way down there, I said, well, I better at least check the oil. Well, I pulled the stick out, and Dalton, a jet of steam came out of that.
So pressurized fumes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I looked, there was absolutely no oil on the stick. I was like, holy smokes. But this was back in the day. It was an Olds 98. It was one of these cars that cabbies used to drive, and the rumor was you could abuse this car and it wouldn't matter.
There's a lot of stories about that car.
I got, I think it was an Impala station wagon. Oh no, it was an Olds 98. Whichever, I had both. But anyway, I got the oil in it and took care of it. But come to find out, like you just said, it used oil.
Yeah.
So you can get to know your vehicle and say, hey, in a month's time, my car uses 1 liter or half a liter of oil. And sometimes with some vehicles, if your vehicle's older, you can top up your oil a little bit if it's not time for an oil change yet.
And it's all cars. It could be a Mercedes, it could be a BMW. All cars burn oil.
Hope that you all enjoyed the video. I'm nursing an injury in my shoulder. I wasn't much help around here. Hopefully I didn't get in the way. But,
you were plenty of help. Plenty of help.
Alrighty.
Whenever you're doing this kind of thing, especially when you're going underneath your car, I don't care in what circumstance it is, you must. I suggest that you always have another adult close by, just in case.
Somebody with a functioning phone, in case the car falls.
Anything can happen.
Hey, you would never do this work under your vehicle with 2 jacks, would you? So, you know, safety measures are taken so that this vehicle, he was under it, they can't fall on him. You know, back in the day, I don't know how many people were crushed
Back
working
in the
under their
day,
vehicle.
Last year, some guy died in his garage.
Right, you jack it up. That's not what's holding this vehicle up. It's on a ramp on both sides, so it's safe. Alrighty.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it down.
Yep, let's do it. See, get a shot of this. Look. This here is strong enough to hold that big caddy and keep Dalton safe.
Let it run like that for a minute or two so it gets right through.
Yeah.
The engine. So you'll notice I don't know if you noticed, but you'll notice the sound of the engine changed from when it started till now. So now the wheel has reached the top of the engine. Because that desperate sound it had, what's going on, what's going on? Now it's all
Don't you
settled
think
out.
that's just a psychological thing that's going on in your own head? Because now you know it's got clean oil in it, you feel all warm and fuzzy?
Yeah.
Well, I think so.
Okay folks, so now that we've changed the oil, we brought the car down. Now the engine's nice and level. We started it up, got the oil running through the motor. We let it sit for about a minute or two to let the oil drain back down into the pan. Now we're gonna check and see what that looks like. So, as you can see, oil is nice and clean. Let's clean that up and try lipstick again. So there we are. We're full right at the top, and the oil is nice and clean, and we're good. So we can call this one done.
Good job, Dalton.